Hello, everyone. Welcome to Metaverse Interviews number one. I'm Wolfwood, your host. Today, we'll be hosting Sammy Flores, better known as Samtoshi F. Baby, artist, comic enthusiast, and founder of NearX Publish. Welcome, Sam.
Nice to be on your podcast slash YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's gonna be on YouTube eventually. I don't know how I'm gonna get around to it, but it will happen.
So
Um, so let's see. We get started. How are you feeling?
I'm doing great. Been working on a couple of different things. Actually, I had fallen off on a lot of my art recently. Been doing a lot of like dev stuff with NearHub more recently, but I'm trying to get back into the whole art stuff and drop some NFTs soon. We got Halloween and Dia de los Muertos coming up, or Day of the Dead, however you want to call it. So I'll be dropping a couple of different things that I'll be giving half of what I earn to the Autism Community Network for charity. So at least the personal NFTs that I have, and then I have a generative art collection dropping with Near Publish and Endemic in collaboration. But we could talk about that, as we go through the interview. And yeah, pretty excited about it all.
Absolutely. Yeah. While I pop up the questionnaire, congratulations to the Houston Astros for getting to.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we're excited. We start game one of the World Series tomorrow and then Saturday, and hopefully we could close it out by Tuesday. I mean, we're undefeated in the playoffs, but we'll see what happens.
All right. So to business. We'll start with the preliminary questions, and the first one is, who are you? What do you do best? What's your background, personally or professionally speaking?
Awesome. Well, like you introduced me, my name is Sammy Flores. I go by Samtoshi F Baby in the Twitter space, near ecosystem, primarily where I work out of. I'm a father of three beautiful children. I have my little baby who's 3 years old, Cameron, and then I have Connor and Kiara, who are twins. They are 15 years old, going on 30. But yeah, you know how high school is. And then I'm married to my wife Renee. She's wonderful, and that's a little bit of background about me. I live in San Antonio, Texas. Been here for about 16 years now. Feels like I just moved here yesterday, but 16 years. Been living here. Before I was raised in Laredo, Texas, and born in Corpus Christi, Texas. So I had a little bit of a triangle in the state of Texas over here. But then, other than that, my background and what I do is I'm a comic book artist. I started off coloring for Gary Odd Edmond. He's a Marvel sketch artist. He does a lot of independent comic books, and so I've collaborated with him a whole bunch. He kind of like taught me a lot of the things that I know, in the comic book industry. And then, I kind of like once the pandemic came around and everything kind of shut down with comic books, I was looking for a new way to, be creative. And so I was able to learn a little bit about blockchain. I started following this one artist named Jose Delbos, who was like a huge artist in the 70s and worked for DC. And I saw that he was, working on Ethereum. And so I was like, well, I wonder what that is, because all I had ever heard about before was Bitcoin. And so that was my entry into, blockchain and crypto. So I saw him, really killing it with a whole bunch of different artwork that he was doing, like with, pictures of Joker, Batman, Wonder Woman. And I was like, hey, I can do that shit. So I came in, started to learn a little bit, but then when I came in, I kind of missed that whole like first wave of like crypto art, and NFTs with the art back like connected to it. And so whenever I first started looking into the whole blockchain experience, I originally was going to start on Ethereum, and I saw Mintbase was on Ethereum, so I wanted to create my own store. And so I reached out to the founder, and that's Nate Grier. and he kind of like told me a little bit about how it all worked. But he told me not to, drop all this money on Ethereum because they were going to be moving on to the near blockchain, and it was going to be relatively cheaper. And so I was like, all right, cool. So I started looking a little bit more into the near blockchain, uh, and I attended an online event. It was like one of the first hackathons that was, that they created to kind of like start pushing the needle for developers on near. And I believe it was like in February, March-ish time frame when that started. And so when I went to that event, I was, talking, mingling with a whole bunch of people, and I actually ran into Ricky, who is the founder of Paris. And at that point, they were just launching, their platform, and it was just like digital art cards. Like there was none of this like, generative art or none of this, near knots and how everything's blown up now, and they have all these different variety of NFTs that they offer. It was just digital art cards. And so at the time, I had, talked a little bit about my background in the comic book industry and being an independent comic book artist, and how we would go to different comic cons and try to sell our artwork. And he was very interested in bringing me on as an artist. So I figured like, hey, why not give it a try? And at the time, it was crazy because like Near wasn't that big yet. So like it wasn't on all these exchanges like crypto.com or now it's on Coinbase, which is awesome. Before I would have to go to like this Japanese exchange and kind of like send some cash there, swap it to USD, then swap it to what was it, USDT or UST, whatever it was, and then swap that into Near and then send it to my Near wallet to kind of like get started. And it was kind of a crazy thing. I actually exchanged $10 my first time because it was pretty cheap to kind of start doing like minting some NFTs. And that was actually the only Near I ever bought out of my pocket, because then I started selling a whole bunch of art on Paris, and that kind of like, started stacking up left and right. I was one of the first 100 artists onboarded onto Paris. So then I started dropping a couple of different, digital art cards that were like comic book covers. That was like my like thing that I wanted to kind of do, like make everything kind of like a comic book cover, because that's what I was known, like that was my thing, like that was the art I was familiar with. And yeah, so I was in the first 8 weeks that I dropped digital art cards, I was number one, not number one seller, top 10 seller 6 out of those 8 weeks. So it was pretty cool, the reception I got. And my art was a little bit different than the artists that they were onboarding, because they were all more like anime or like primarily like, like real digital art. Like there was like this trash art movement going on where it was just all these different like um, collage type art. And well, mine was all like hand drawn, all like really like rendered with ink and like cross hatching and a lot of different things that we use in the comic book style, like and so really caught an eye of a couple of different people in the Near blockchain. And I guess it started, people really liked it, and it sold out a couple of things. And from there it was pretty cool, because then Orvard and another one of their colleagues from the Open Web Sandbox actually hit me up, and they wanted me to join their team. And so I started doing artwork for some of the events that they would hold. And so they would award people with, different artworks for people showing up. So it was real cool. And so like coming into the Near blockchain, everybody was really welcoming and like really encouraging on, building different things. And, I didn't know anything about anything. So, being a part of the Open Web Sandbox was really awesome, because I got to meet a lot of the founders who were just starting to build. And I started to learn a lot of the concepts that, blockchain has to offer. You got a lot of different things like, NFTs, then you have like DAOs, then you have DeFi. So everything has kind of been wrapped up together now. Now that, the blockchain is starting to expand, you got more developers coming in with all their, innovative ideas, and, utilizing all this tech. So it's been really cool. So that's kind of like a little bit of the background, professionally, and like who I am and how I got started in the blockchain.
Yeah, that's definitely in depth. Thanks for that one. Uh, so I guess just a short addendum because you sort of answered my next question, but the one part you didn't answer would be, did you quickly jump into the idea of crypto or blockchain, or were you skeptical at any point?
I wasn't very skeptical because I'm a huge like I have ADHD. So when I'm I hyper focus into things. So when I first started to learn about blockchain, I would was like fell into the rabbit hole like hardcore. And so I really was trying to learn as much as I can. And once I got that concept down and of how it all worked and all the royalties and all the smart contracts and how everything is attached to one another, I was like, hey, this is amazing. And so I was immediately in on everything. And so you know how when you first find something out, you want to talk about it all the time. So the more I talked about it, the more I learned, and the more I was able to encounter people who were like, what do you mean? They were skeptical about it. So I was able to learn more and more as I encountered these skeptical people. And even my wife at the beginning, she didn't understand very much. And then I started to stack up a lot of crypto, and then she was like, oh, okay, so you could exchange that for USD. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
so it's better than going to Comic Con, paying for a table, and then having to sell a whole bunch of prints for $10. You know what I mean? I was drawing one drawing a month and getting paid a buttload more compared to just $10 every single fan art print that I would do. Or I actually wrote a comic book called Henry the Elf. And so at some of the Comic Cons that I attended, we did a soft rollout to get some feedback on it. And I got a lot of good feedback, but we're selling $4 per issue. And so you have to kind of sell a whole bunch to make a lot, make a living in that kind of, in that particular way. And so with the whole NFT, I don't have to pay to get anything printed. I'll have to go to a publisher and try to sell it. With Ricky, he was just like, hey, dude, this is how you do it. He showed me. It was 5 minutes to mint something. And he was like, dude, do whatever you want. I was like, for real? He's like, yeah, just make whatever you want. Utilize their platform. We want people to just learn about this, technology. And so, yeah, I mean, I was just drawing all these different things. I did the Man of Bitcoin, did Captain Ethereum, Dr. Near. I did, what was it? I did a whole I did a whole bunch of comic book based characters that utilize different coins as their symbols, and so a lot of people really like that because everybody's real big into the comic book stuff. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is huge. It basically runs the movie theaters now and the box office. That's those are the movies people want to see. So I was really taking advantage of that wave that's been really built up in the especially in the whole world. You know what I mean? Everybody's all into all that comic book stuff. So that was the route that I went with superheroes and stuff like that. And then Ricky had already kind of told me, he was like, yeah, we want to make this platform into something bigger than just digital art cards. Eventually we'll want to have all these types of collectibles, and comic books are definitely in the future for us. And so then eventually they launched Paris Comic, and so I was there at the actual meeting that he announced that they're going to do Paris Comic, and that they were looking for people to kind of bring on and give a little bit of funding to kind of start off. So I reached out to him, and then I brought my partner Gary into this space, and he was like, yeah, we had a meeting with Afik and Ricky. Afik is the other founder of Paris, and we started Boom, And Boom's one of the first comic books that was ever created on the Near blockchain. And yeah, so we've been doing that for them. We have issue 6 now coming out. I'm actually in the process of getting all the pages to get those colored, and we should be launching that soon in November. And then yeah, so we've been doing a whole lot of different things, and then from there, the bear market hit recently, and so I've really been involved with a lot of development. I met Jeff last October. They actually, like, him and Cronier actually reached out to me to do this other project before they decided that NearHub was what they were going to do. And so then, Jeff, Nick, and Cronier started off with NearHub last October in 2021. And then, Jeff kind of became the sole person in, NearHub, who's been kind of like running it all since Cronier left and Nick left. And so then he reached out to me in February and was like, hey, do you have any bandwidth to do some generative art stuff with me? So then we, co-founded NearHub Comics. And so that launched. We did a little experiment with their little character called Herms. And so it's like a little robot. And, I did a generative art. It was the first ever generative art collection that was in the form of comic book covers. So we have that available out there, and we plan to expand it, a little bit more as we continue developing different things through NearHub. And then I joined the NearHub development team for the creative part, and we've been working a lot on a lot of different concepts, a lot of artificial intelligence coming into play. Jeff just launched the AI story. That it's like a create your own adventure, and so like he's putting a lot of different like pieces of a story on Twitter, and you get to vote on which part of the story gets put into the actual like main story next. And so from there, then the AI generates 3 other parts, and then people keep voting, and it keeps going, and so people are partaking into that. And I think we launched that like on Sunday or last Thursday, something like that. And so now, I believe about 2 hours ago, part 3 just came out. So you could go onto Twitter right now and search for NearHub, and you'll be able to see the AI story going along there, and you can vote. And everybody who participates in the vote, the winning vote that goes through, whoever voted for that winning vote gets put in a raffle to see who gets AI token that we're going to eventually start giving out to people to redeem on a couple of the different AI platforms that we are creating within the NearHub space. So not only do we have the story going, we have a AI prompt to image generator coming up that's been in test. So basically you type in what you want to see, and like in like 60 seconds, it comes up with like a couple different pictures. Right now it's just like one picture, but we're building in a stable diffusion type thing where like it's all these different like generated images. So yeah, it's like a whole bunch of stuff that's being built, and he's like the mastermind behind that. Like, I just told him, look, this is cool, and he's like, yeah, let's try it out, and let me train my AI how to do it type thing. And yeah, he's like a wizard when it comes to that. So yeah, and then he's building a 3D AI generator for actual avatars in NearHub that you'll be able to use in the future. So yeah, I mean, whole bunch of stuff happening with NearHub. And then we started Near Publish at the beginning of last year. It was real slow at the beginning because, as any startup is, it's real slow, especially when the bear market hits. But we were able to be showcased at a couple of different conventions. We did printing for the San Diego NFT Con. We got out to LA NFT Expoverse. We had a little bit of collaborations with NearCon, and we plan to keep on growing in the future. We got a lot of different collaborative efforts going with Endemic on Aurora. I'm actually going to be part of a Twitter space on Saturday, the 29th, right? Saturday the 29th at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. I think it's 14 UTC, whatever the universal time zone is for there. But we're going to be joined with Endemic, Jeff from Nearhub, Paris Comic, and LaCroix, who had just launched a whole bunch of NFTs, and they're inputting all this merchandise. So it's going to be a pretty good Twitter space to kind of be a part of. And yeah, I mean, we're going to be talking about the Near ecosystem and all the different things that are going on there. But yeah, that's I was all in when it came to blockchain and figuring all this stuff out. Like this, it's an amazing technology, and there's so many different concepts that haven't even been touched.
I think it's a very complete statement. And again, you've also answered my next question. In what ways has it changed your life?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's changed my life like completely. You know what I mean? Like before I worked in the financial industry. I worked for USA Federal Savings Bank, and I I got tired of working at a corporation. Like I'm like more of a creative person, so like like what I did there is I was a loan officer. So people would call and ask for loans, and I would submit applications for them, and then I did titles and liens, and then I did like credit card. I did a whole bunch of things at the Federal Savings Bank, and so like it was like I felt like it was like I was just a number there. It was just like monkey work where I would just do the same thing over and over and over, and then like I said, I was like too. It was too much for me where I needed to get like that creative juice out, and so coming into like the NFT space and the whole cryptoverse with metaverse and everything that was going on. I mean, it's just where I want to be, and like it allows me to get that creative juice out and let my mind be innovative. Like I'm super into like how things work, and like I feel like we are part of like the forefathers who are paving the way for people to like come and use this tech. Like DC Comics recently put out over the summer digital trading cards or physical trading cards that are attached to the digital card, and they have an app. And so like we did a collaboration with Margaret J Foundation, and we did with through Near Publish, where we created the physical card, and then Chloe, the founder, Margaret J, set up her own like way of getting a QR code and like connecting it to an NFT. And like I mean, it's just an amazing thing. And now you see DC Comics doing that. Earlier today, I was at Target, with my wife and my son, and I came across the Hot Wheels section because I'm a huge collector, and I always look for anything Batman. So I was looking for like Batman Hot Wheels, and I saw like the Hot Wheels, like there was like a pack of like 24 different Hot Wheels, and there was like collect an NFT with this particular set, and I was like, damn, dude, like that, we're not far away from it going mainstream, right? Like everybody's really into the whole like experimentation and trying to be innovative with this tech, so it's really amazing, from the beginning of when I first started and people were being really skeptical about everything to now you see different things, and it's crazy. I actually was watching CBS the other day, and there was a Near commercial that I saw through like a sailing event. Like it was after one of the football games, and like they were doing like a sail race, like with selling like sailboats. And so then like I get this ad comes up, and it's like join the Near ecosystem, and there was a QR code, and when I scanned the QR code, it was to open a wallet, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like it's not we're not so far away from seeing that happen. Like we had through the Super Bowl, you had the Coinbase QR code just go around and circle, and people were like, what the hell is that? And when they popped it up, you got $5 free in Bitcoin or whatever. So just for starting a Coinbase account. So I mean, we're right on the cusp of it going through mass adoption. I'm pretty excited to be a part of the journey.
Yeah, it sort of seems like every household name in the business is just like using their most popular thing as a testing ground. Like, here's your Batman card with your Batman NFT because everyone loves Batman, so we're gonna test how much mass adoption really is gonna work as far as Web3 is concerned with the average consumer. And
Exactly,
it's
exactly.
not a bad test.
No, for sure. And that's where it brings us to the comic book experience. Uh, we already have Marvel Comics who have the QR codes on their comic books that you can scan to get the digital version. So I mean, we're not that much different from scanning the QR code and getting an NFT version of it. We just got to figure out the logistics and what blockchain is going to be used on, and like once they see how people like Gary and I and all the other creators who are creating on Paris Comic, or what we do in Near Hub Comics in the future, how we utilize this tech is going to be like how they use it. I mean, I already imagine a Batman cover, with him like in all these variations. Like they already have the pops, right? So like, why not make it a comic book? And so you have all these different one of one comic book covers that you get digitally with your, like you buy it digitally, and then maybe you'll be able to redeem the physical version. We do it backwards as opposed to the way they have it now, where you buy the physical version, you scan the QR code, and you get it digitally. This
Yeah.
time you'll get a one of one, you know what I mean? And then that's where it's, much more of like a collector's like dream. Like, I got the only version of this particular comic, right? Like that's what people want. And then, you know, people who sell these comic books later on in the future, they get rich. I mean, like, I think there was a comic book, the first issue of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like from 1984, I think, when it came out, sold like a 9.1 or 9.4 uh like graded comic book cover in mint condition, sold for like 400,000 or something like that. So I mean, we're not too far away from that happening in our space. I mean, you have the Bored Ape Yacht Clubs who sell all those one of one like monkeys, right? And they're part of a club now. So I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, next we have we have music, we have games coming into play, we have everything coming in, and it's just an amazing time. And even in the bear market, it's pretty exciting because this is the time to build. A lot of people are dropping off because they were like really into the whole fad of it, right? Like people were like, "Oh, this is the thing to do," and then like, "Oh man, I'm like losing money." But for me, it's not really about losing money. Like it's about like building and being innovative with all this stuff. Like that's what really like gets my juices flowing. Like what can we do that's different from everything else? And so teaming up with people like Jeff, who's just the same way. Like we sit in a room, or not in a room. We sit in a Zoom call, and we're like, "Hey, it'd be awesome if we did this. It'd be awesome if we did that." And like, we're really trying to like figure out real world use cases. Like, we have an idea for university, right, where people can, come in, take a curriculum, utilize an NFT to start the curriculum, and then stake that NFT to earn money back. Whereas the traditional way of going to college right now, which is kind of whack, because you spend all this money, right, to get an education, and then maybe you get a job somewhere, right? I mean, some people go
If
to
you're
college
lucky.
and get their degree, like me. I went to, I got my degree uh, in human and sports performance, with psychology with emphasis in human and sports performance. I wanted to be a college basketball coach. Crazy. And then now I'm here doing all this artwork, which is completely different from what I got my degree and my bachelor's in. And then I went to grad school for a little bit, so that put me a little bit in debt, right? And this whole way of doing it backwards, where buy an NFT and then you could stake it and earn some like money back, like that's like a use case that we think would be amazing for people as opposed to getting them in debt. It's just the whole like backwards way of doing it. And I think it's huge if if we're able to like figure something out and help people as opposed to hurt them.
With that philosophical position, we are going to move on to the next question, and that question is, what is your philosophical opinion regarding DAOs, and if so, are you involved in it?
Oh yeah, I'm involved in a couple of different DAOs. We have the Near Hub Comics DAO. We have the Near Publish DAO. I'm part of the Cheddar DAO, and so DAOs are just a new way of people working together as an organization to carry out different things in automated form. And so I really think that this is something that could be used in the corporation world, because right now there's a lot of like in the corporate world it's a dog eat dog world, and I feel like it shouldn't be like that. I feel like if corporations will work together, they'd be a lot more efficient, there'd be a lot more innovation, and people would get paid correctly. Because right now, like I said, I work for a USAA, and one of the things they had is like, oh, you could go in and submit your idea for bettering our corporation, but if you're picked, you have to get like people have to vote for it, and then you don't really get anything out of it. Whereas in the DAOs, there's like different ways to like earn bounties and like get royalties based off your creations and stuff like that. And then you have a lot of like human resource type things that could be very much different than the way it is in the traditional world. So, I mean, as we move forward with DAOs, there's going to be a lot of different things that I think corporations will kind of like utilize. And it's not going to be perfect right away, but as long as they start experimenting, I think that's a huge like advantage and like point for mass adoption, especially like I said, with these huge corporations like Nike or like Under Armour, they're already starting to use NFTs. Like that's how you get into the whole DAOs. That like the DAO space. Like you start with the NFTs, the way I started, then you learn a little bit about DeFi, and you're like, oh shit, there's DAOs, right? And so like it's the same thing with the near knots. I bought a whole bunch of near knots, and now I could go and vote on different things with their DAO and see like like where the next phase of their corporate entity is going. And I think that's where the future holds. And then not to mention, I mean, we got insurances, banks, and all these different ways to automate things. Like, why do you need people taking applications? They already have like automated phone calls, right? So why not do it in a DAO format and have like applications put in that way, or like insurances will connect like the dots for how risky you are of a person because of different things that you've done in your like how many tickets you have, how many wrecks have you been in, all those different things that will change your premiums, right? Or how many things will help you if you haven't, if you've gone three years without a wreck, or 3 years, you know what I mean? Like there's different ways to utilize this tech, and I think like DAOs will definitely play a huge part in the future of how we move forward to mass adoption.
Good answer. This will be the last question for the introduction, and then we will move on to the more focused section. So, as succinctly and concisely as possible, we all know that you're working for Near as far as the crypto system you're building on. What made you choose it?
Oh man, they kind of sucked me in, because when I first when I first came in, I was like, what I wanted to do was I wanted to be like I wanted to have art on all these different blockchains. Like I wanted to have some art on Ethereum, I wanted to have some art on Near, I wanted to have some art on Tezos, I wanted to have some art, on all these different blockchains, because I really feel like eventually there's going to be like a separation of blockchains where just like department stores, like we have the dollar stores, and we have the mid level department stores like Targets, and we have you know uh, Macy's or Dillard's, a little bit higher end stuff. Then you have like Prada, Louis V, and like the higher end stuff. So like eventually we're gonna have levels of blockchain, and I wanted to have like my content on all these different blockchains, just so that way I could be set up for when that happens. But coming into the near ecosystem, they kind of sucked me in, and like they're like so encouraging, and compared to like different blockchains that like weren't as encouraging, or people weren't as easily available to speak to, or weren't into like sharing some of their ideations of different things and concepts. Like near ecosystem, I met a whole bunch of people. Like I said, I met Nate at the beginning, and he told me about near, and then I met Ricky, and I met Jordan, I met Sophia from the Open Web Sandbox, and Orvard. Orvard's now like the head person of the Philippines Guild, and then Jeff, who's now the founder of Near Hub. I met all these different people, and they all just shared all their innovative thought process and ideations for where they see the tech going and how we could better it. And so like working together was very reaffirming on how the blockchain was kind of working. And so now we have a bigger pool of people, and so we're all over the world. Vandals doing the whole music stuff. We have a DeFi going on like all across. You got stable coins now. Like it's crazy. So I mean, that was kind of how I chose Near. I mean, I don't like to say I chose Near. I like to say Near chose me. So
That's better.
yes, so like it was just mind blowing. And like beforehand, like I was in this group of artists. It was like 45 different artists, and like we're just all like trying to figure this whole blockchain experience out. And we were really like tight at the beginning. At first, it started with like 13 of us, and then we started like introducing more and more people to our group, so that way we could kind of work together, because it's a scary thing like jumping into this new like thing. And we're just giving all these information and telling people, okay, this is this blockchain, this is this blockchain. And so like that's where I met Anokai, who's like my partner and co-founder of Near Publish. And he, like at the beginning, he was just kind of like skeptical too. And once like I brought him into the ecosystem, he was like, huh. He immediately met the founder from Croncat, and he started working with Croncat. Then he started working with other platforms, and he saw the same thing as I did. Everybody was really like encouraging, and really was like, hey, let me show you this, let me show you that, and this is how you could do this type of thing. And so
And we are back for part 2 of Metaverse interviews number 1 with the genius Samtoshi F. Baby. We just finished the questionnaire and the introduction questions with why you were building on Near. So pretty much the entire thesis was very inclusive.
yes, absolutely. Very inclusive. Everybody is very encouraging and supportive in the ecosystem. So yeah, that's how that's how I got me involved.
Excellent, great. That's actually why it chose me, because at the same time I was very skeptical, because I was wondering where everyone's angle was, because in crypto you expect there to always be an angle, profit being the most common one.
Yep.
And then I found myself in a situation where I was looking for everyone's angle, and when I couldn't find one, I was like, I guess there is none.
There's an angle for everybody. There's a place in crypto for everybody. Like it's like at the beginning where people like were skeptical of the internet. Like, oh, who's gonna use that? You know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The way I imagine it is like the internet and a credit card like having a baby. Like that's how crypto is.
That makes sense. All right, now to the actual meaty questions, so to speak.
Okay.
How well do you know the metaverse itself? And if you do know it, teach me your favorite aspect about it. And if you don't, tell me what you wish you knew about it.
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty well versed in the metaverse. Like, it, there's so many. There's like, it's like a four-headed monster. You have NFTs, you have DeFi, you have DAO, and you have it how it's all connected. So, once you come into one, you end up learning about all of it, right? And now we have like virtual reality worlds, and that's where like where it's going, right? Like the metaverse, like Facebook changed their name to Meta for whatever reason, right? And now, like it's just an amazing thing. Like you have like different ways of utilizing this whole technology, uh, like how can you say? There's so like it's you could use the decentralized finance for banking, where you have like instead of having a savings account with a bank where it pays you 0.04%, because that's what most banks pay you for holding money there. You could use stable coins and get 20% back, and then swap it over for USD after you have it, and then you could compound it and start creating compound interest. And like once you start doing that, it's just like you start like your mind starts blowing. And then like the whole NFT concept, right? Like there's different ways to utilize NFTs. Like a lot of people have this misconception that NFT is just art and it's just a JPEG, and it's like, dude, no, like you could utilize NFTs in so many different ways. Like we're creating token gated rooms, and that's like a ticket. NFTs is a ticket. Then you have digital collectibles, and then you have comic books, and you have like all these different ways to create content, music, gaming. It's crazy. You have all these different people playing Fortnite, and they're buying all these different skins, or like Mortal Kombat, you get all these different skins for your favorite players. But then, after they're no longer available, you know, people are left wishing they could have bought it, right? And so like if a person had that limited run of of that particular skin in the Web3 space, you could trade it or sell it, and it'd be used as an NFT. And so I mean, there's just so many different things and different concepts that you could build upon in the metaverse. And I mean, that's just a small little portion of what the metaverse actually is, right? Now we have all these new things coming out with like augmented reality type things where you purchase the NFT, or and then you earn another one, and like all you gotta do is point your phone at something in your house that you have, like a toaster or something, and you earn another NFT, and it's like a 3D thing that pops up in augmented reality. It's crazy. Like there's so many different ways to utilize this tech, and we're just at the beginning. Like once people start figuring out more and more ways, like I said, Hot Wheels is coming out with their own versions. I don't know if you're familiar with the LOL surprise dolls, but they have these trading cards, and they have NFTs that you can earn off those. And so like everybody's trying to figure out how to use it. Nike has their NFTs, Under Armour has NFTs, Adidas is coming out with blockchain. Like there's so many different people like dipping their toes into this space. And so the more and more people we come in, the more ideas we have, the better. And so uh, you know what I know about the metaverse is only very little of what it's going to be in the future. So that's all I can say about that. Like there's so many different things, and I wish I could elaborate a little bit more on everything. But I think I've kind of like talked a little bit about how innovative we're being, especially like with NearHub and the developmental state we're in right now with all the artificial intelligence, the idea for the universities, all these real world use cases for utilizing uh, the metaverse. Like bands are going to be able to play music sets from their home, and people from the other side of the world are going to be able to watch it inside a virtual reality space. Now we have like uh, Jeff created a way to utilize a 360 camera, so that way if a band or comedian or whoever is streaming whatever they want, sets up a 360 camera, you could go in there and like see their view. I mean, I think 2 weeks ago we had a UFC fight, and so eventually you have like the 360 cameras on all the NFL games. They already have that going on. Imagine having the Super Bowl, not limited to somebody who's there, in real life. You have people come in, pay for an NFT to get into the Super Bowl, get the 360 angles on your Oculus, on your laptop, or even from your phone. We have like ways of doing everything. And then, like providing exclusive content to the people who own different types of NFTs. Like, just like you have front row tickets, right? Maybe you buy, this particular NFT that's a separate level than, the other NFT that only gets you to watch the game, and where you'll be able to ask questions to the players afterwards. You know what I mean? So like, there's different ways that we could utilize the metaverse, not just, art, how people think. Like, there's this one comic book artist who kind of like, rubs me the wrong way because he's always talking shit about people who do NFTs, and he just doesn't know anything. Like, he's like, oh, NFT artists can't draw their own shit. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? You don't even know what you're talking about. NFTs could be anything. NFTs are stupid. NFT, like, whatever, dude. I like, and then he goes and he brags about his secondary sales on eBay, and they're not even sales. He's like, they're listings. They're like listings of like, oh, somebody's listing my comic for $60. Like, yeah, they're listing it, but they're not selling it, or it hasn't been sold. And if they do sell, like, what are you getting out of it? Like, just like a pat on your back? Well, I mean, if I sold an NFT, I get a royalty off it because I get to set my own royalties. So I mean, there's so many different ways that like you can utilize this stuff, and as we move forward in the future, it's just gonna get better and better. Like there's gonna be so many different ways to like use this stuff. Like I said, we had the UFC fight, or not UFC, like a mixed martial MMA fight. It wasn't UFC, but even then, I think I saw that uh, the UFC is like teaming up with Facebook, and they're gonna start selling NFTs to their stuff. So I mean, like I said, we're just at the beginning of how everything is gonna be used in the metaverse. I mean, you got people selling real estate in like Decentraland. You know what I mean? So like eventually we're gonna be doing that with NearHub. Like we're like we're already selling rooms, right? So for however like people want to utilize them. Now we have the token gated rooms. Now we have the 360 angles. Now Jeff created portals, just like you could like jump from one room to the next, and it'd be like Super Mario where you jump into the freaking
To a
frame.
pipe.
Exactly, like it's gonna be crazy, dude. So we're at the beginning, uh, and that's not even, we're just talking about NFTs, right? Like, wait until you like apply the DeFi concepts to that stuff, and DAOs, and maybe DAO, like being part of a specific DAO gets you eligible to a certain room or to a certain like part of real estate that has like exclusive content for like people who own that real estate. You know what I mean? Like, you got people like Eminem, Britney Spears, Snoop Dogg, all these people who are buying like different NFTs and really kind of investing in this technology to see where they could take it. And it's just all about experimenting right now. And you know, like I said, it's just going to get better and better as we move forward to the future.
Absolutely. That's absolutely agreed. The next question we have in line is, what was your first experience in the metaverse like?
Uh, well, it was crazy. My first experience was with the Open Web Sandbox, right? So like they're the ones who kind of brought me into learning a lot more about the ecosystem versus just like learning about NFTs and creating, minting and stuff like that. Uh, and then so at first we would do a whole bunch of Zoom calls, and then NearHub came out, and so I had already met Jeff, and so I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, the Open Web Sandbox wants to create their own room. Like, can we do that? He's like, yeah. How do you want to create it? I was like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, do you have like an idea? I was like, well, let me get back to you. So I spoke to, Sophia and Vasilia and the whole like team with the Open Web Sandbox, and we came up with a concept. And I actually designed a room for NearHub, and it's like the auditorium for the Open Web Sandbox. And so at the idea for that was to build like the way it is as a university student center. Like we wanted to have uh, a place where people could have an auditorium and like talk about their platforms and like utilize like the stage for like musical performances, comedic things. Like everybody's coming in and having their own content. We wanted to showcase that with an auditorium, and then we have little breakout rooms in there where people could go in and like talk to each other. And like the way NearHub's set up is like the closer you get to somebody, the louder they are. The farther you are, the less you can hear them. So it's kind of like the real world, right? Like you have to get close to somebody. So if we have breakout rooms, and you can have your private conversation when people are in the other room listening to like whatever is going on the stage. And so that's where we eventually started having all our events in the auditorium. And so then we then wanted to build a separate room where it was more like the game area. And we wanted to create like an arcade type place where like people could kind of like hang out and stuff, kind of like a student center. And then we have the library that we created. It's just not like available right off the top when you go to NearHub, but it's there. It's created. And so the idea was that every book that we created in the library would be a platform for Near. So when you clicked on that, you would get a book that opened up where you could portal into the platform. So like if it was Ref Finance, right? It would give you a description of what Ref Finance was, and you click the portal and you go to the platform and you're there on Ref Finance. And so like it like and like we designed it to look like the Harry Potter the Harry Potter library. So I mean, we had all these different. That was like my first experience in the metaverse, like actually being in the virtual world versus just creating like art, which is still part of the metaverse, so to speak, but it's just a different experience versus being in a virtual space. And so like that's where we kind of all started connecting with each other. And then we started holding hangouts where people could come in and learn about the ecosystem. And the open web sandbox was like the place to kind of learn about the ecosystem at the very beginning. Now they're more about helping finding people like different jobs and different listings in the ecosystem. So I've kind of parted my way with them because they stopped doing the virtual events, and so they didn't need me to draw anything anymore. So it's kind of like, hey, I appreciate you guys. So when that happened, I was able to start learning more and doing more things with Jeff, and create, helping establish Near Publish, and we're hoping to now go to ETH Denver in February and March, and hopefully we could get something going there to kind of showcase all the stuff we're doing. We've had booths, like I said, at the San Diego NFT Con, the LA Expo, and we did a lot of like stuff with NearCon, like Cheddar, a whole bunch of different things we did printing for. So that's just the beginning. Once we get a little bit of funding behind us, we'll be able to start our own little platform, and we got a little bit of plans up our sleeves. So we'll see how it goes in the future. But yeah, that answers the question on what my first experience was.
Yeah, that sounds pretty dope. The Hogwarts library is pretty cute too.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. What's the next major project or task in the Web3 or ecosystem in general that you want to see or possibly have a hand in making real?
Oh well, I'm working on a lot of different stuff with NearHub. Like that's like the main thing right now in like my forte. We're really developing a lot of different things, and then of course, like I said earlier, there's a lot of different. Like I kind of fell off with the artwork, and now I'm trying to come back into it with a lot of different collections. Actually, well, let me share my screen because I'm working on uh, something. Oh, well, it says that you have to allow me to do that.
Oh,
I don't know if you can do it,
there
but
you go.
yeah, there you go. let's see, can you see that?
Yes.
All right, cool. So this is one of the things I'm working on. Let's see, let me kind of zoom out a little bit on my screen here. So, like I said, I'm working on a couple of different things that's like more of the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos type of.
Sugar skull art.
Exactly, exactly. And so this is just one of the variations I'm creating. And I'm actually going to be putting um, four different variations out of this particular one. And one's going to be on your Hub Comics, the other one's going to be on NFT Nativo, and then another one on Paris, and then one on Apollo 42. So there's going to be four different variations. I haven't decided which one's going to be on what. This is just the first one I'm doing. So it's kind of like a pumpkin head mixed with Dia de los Muertos theme, skull. And yeah, so there's going to be a variation that's only 10. There's going to be a variation that's 25, a variation that's 50 of them, and then a variation that's 100. And so all those combined, I plan to sell for X amount, and anything that I earn, half of it's going to be donated to the Autism Community Network. My son Cameron, he's autistic, and so I've been fortunate to be, part of that community with uh, with them, and we have an occupational therapist. We got put into this program that we received a grant for, called for PACT therapy, which is pediatric autism communication therapy, and it really helped a lot with helping my son learn to communicate because at this point he's a nonverbal autistic child, and so it's really difficult for him to connect socially. But ever since we you know partook in that actual therapy, like he's his quality of life has become like the best. Like he's very happy, and like that's the most important thing for my wife and I. Like we don't want to change him, and so like a lot of the things that we come into, you know, like a lot of the therapies that we come into, they're all about like behavior modification, especially here in the state of Texas. Like they want you to be just like everybody else, and not everybody's the same. Like even neurotypical people, not everybody learns the same. Like I learn by listening instead of like writing all my notes, like word for word. Like that's not going to help me learn. Like I'll be distracted with how I write because I write from top to bottom as opposed from bottom to top, like you're supposed to be taught, or like you're supposed to. So I mean that distracts me a lot, and so listening and drawing is the way I learn. And so like it's just the same thing, you know what I mean? Like everybody's different, and I don't think anybody should be changed, right? Like we don't want people to change. Everybody has their own skills and their own way of doing things. Like people tap their feet a lot when they're listening and trying to learn, or people are biting on their pen or clicking or whatever you do to help you focus. Like that's a big huge thing when it comes to like autistic people. Everybody's different and they have their own like special skills, and they're like superheroes. So I mean they all have like this like my son, he has super sense for smelling, and so like he could smell like oatmeal, like even from the pantry. Like it's crazy, and it affects him because like if it's near him, he won't eat. Type of thing. And so like there's a lot of different concepts that we've learned for the Autism Community Network, and they're a nonprofit organization. So anything that we could do to kind of help them out, like because they've really helped us out. Like we have a whole bunch of wonderful therapists have their own like ideology and way of thinking versus the typical way of like, oh, we want you to be the same as everybody else. And after, like my wife and I really like I said, like I'm a hyper focused type of individual. So when I found out that my son was, autistic, we really like learned a lot, and researched a lot of different things, and like uh, learned from a lot of different people who were autistic and like a lot older now, and were sharing their experiences on different therapies that maybe cause them to have post traumatic stress. You know what I mean? And so like we don't want that for our son. We want him to be as happy as possible. Like right now, we're not really focused on him learning his ABCs. We're learning on him connecting, you know, socially, so that way, eventually, you know, since he's able to connect with us socially, then we could, teach him all these concepts, and like, hey, this is what this is, and this is how this works, and this is how you do this, and like I said, it's been an eye opener with the Autism Community Network, and how they approach different things, and they're just an amazing group of individuals, and we really want to help. Me, I really want to help like with their funding, and hopefully doing different art stuff, like I could help raise some money for them. And, like I said, I'm not really like all about making millions of dollars or anything like that. Like, yeah, if it happens, it happens. But if not, I'm really trying to help like push these different concepts, because that's what really matters to me. Everybody has their place in the world, and they shouldn't be changed. And that's what the Autism Community Network has really like, you know, kind of like put into my mind. Like, you know what I mean? Like before, like I feel so terrible, because before, like the way I was raised, like I'm like Hispanic, so my parents are like, look me in the eye when I'm telling you something. And like, sometimes like, for people, like it hurts them to look you in the eye. Like they don't need it.
Makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's all about being comfortable. You know what I mean? Like whatever you could do to be comfortable, I think people, you know, should be able to do. Like if you need to jump around for a little bit before you could, draw, or learn I don't know, a chapter or read a book. Like go ahead, jump around. Do whatever you need to do. Like it's just like athletes, right? Before you go and you shoot a basket or whatever, you have to go warm up. I mean, even a NBA player gets 12 seconds to shoot a free throw, right? Like, why are we expecting kids to sit still in school to learn a certain way when you can learn in multiple ways? I don't know. It really hits a soft spot for me now that the more and more I counter all these things, I learn a lot about myself as well, because the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So my son's a lot like me as well. So that's really what I'm trying to do now, with some of the art that I'm gonna be putting out in the future. I have a collection through Endemic, generative art, that we're going to be launching on Halloween for like 3 to 4 days, and it's going to be 150 pieces, and so a portion of that's going to go to the Autism Community Network. Then I have this little collection that I'm working on here that you're seeing on the screen. Um, that's going to go to the Autism Community Network, and I hope in the future, like everything that I am a part of, I plan to like donate a portion of it to them. That's what it's all about. I think figuring out ways to make the world better. And I think starting with organizations like this and really helping them get funded, and like you know build a larger community, and like hire more and more like individuals who have the same ideation and concepts. I think like that's how we'll make the world a better place.
And once again, you jumped the gun on me, because my next question, I think you just answered, and it's safe to assume that if you could have your work change or impact our current state of world affairs, it's safe to say that you would probably choose this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like I'm not opposed to like doing another charity, but I mean, like, it really hits close to heart to home with my son being autistic, and I've seen like the leaps and bounds that he's made from from what like it began. Like at the beginning, I was like extremely scared, because you read all these different things, And so like at the beginning, I didn't think he was gonna like I didn't think he was gonna have an imagination, because that's one of the things that you read. You hear that like autistic people have a hard time, you know, communicating and sharing their thoughts, and they're coming up with their own ideas. And there's this thing called masking, where people try to be exactly like everybody else because that's how they're taught, right? Like I want to be like that. I want to do those types of things. And yeah, it's cool to want to be like other people, but you're also yourself, and you shouldn't force yourself to be a certain way if it's hurting you, type of thing. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, that's what it's all about for me. I really, really, really want to share, that with the world.
Thanks for sharing your process while we're having this interview, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, I was too busy talking.
No, I don't mind at all. I think it's equally cool that we're talking about this, but at the same time, people are seeing you do what you do. Because everyone's
Yeah,
like, "Oh, NFTs are so easy. Anyone can do that." It's not as easy as it seems to be able to use cascading style sheets and to detail orient that in there. It's not easy.
yeah. I mean, well, this is kind of like second nature to me. So like,
Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of conversation, and right now I'm just doing flat work. So like, I'm just putting like the base colors, and then afterwards I'll do some rendering and stuff like that. But yeah, this is the process at the beginning.
I've done basic Photoshop and CSS in college, guys. It is not as easy as he's making it look. Now, the final question, and one of my favorites. Do you have any parting advice for those of us who maybe have not transitioned into our sphere and are on the sidelines about whether or not to be involved?
um, don't like so. One of the things we like to tell ourselves, especially like Jeff and I, is that uh, your own creativity is your limitation. Like like what you think, like like how you like to format your ideas is like that's your own limitation in this space right now, like because there's so many different concepts that are just being built. So like don't hold yourself back, and like ask questions. Like the worst that could happen is people won't respond, right? Like you're not gonna get like you're not gonna lose money for asking questions. Like so like be open-minded, uh you know learn different things, have don't don't be narrow-minded. Like I think being narrow-minded is going to hurt you the most in this space. And so that's kind of like the biggest thing I think, that like the biggest advice I could give anybody. You know, if you're going to come into space, try to fall into the wormhole. Try to give yourself a week or two of just only like you know taking advantage of like all the videos that we have on YouTube. Like like there's not like a handbook for any of this stuff yet. Like we're building the handbook right now. So I mean, no, uh, be open minded. Like that's the biggest thing. Don't limit your creativity. Like don't like it's easy to doubt yourself. Like that's the biggest problem with everybody in the world is like, oh, that's not cool enough, right? And so it's like, no, yes, it is cool enough. Like, you're gonna find somebody who likes your stuff. Like right now, like in the traditional world right now, you are limited by region. Like you have to go and sell to your neighbors and sell to people in your city. Well, in Web3, like it's worldwide. So like the like the chances that somebody like doesn't like your stuff is crazy. Like there's gonna be somebody that likes your stuff. Like
You're bound to find someone who gets you.
exactly, and you're gonna be able to connect with people from all over the world who have an understanding of different things. And it's just like I said, like that one artist who I said kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like he only knows what he knows because he's limiting himself to his own experiences, right? Like, oh yeah, I saw somebody draw this and he didn't draw it as good as me. And like whatever, dude. Like, get out of here. It's insane to me. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like yeah, not everybody's gonna like this, pumpkin skull head, but there's gonna be a lot of people who connect to it, especially like from like people from my Hispanic culture. You know what I mean? It's like Dia de los Muertos, like that everybody likes that type of art style. Like there's gonna be hundreds of kids who go with their face painted like this on Halloween and the next day and the next day after that because it's November 1st to November 2nd type thing, right? And before that, we have people in the United States like celebrating Halloween, not just people in the United States, but people from all over the world who like that type of like, that theme of, skulls and like bats and like, all that horror stuff. Like, yeah, man, just don't limit yourself. Like, let your creativity take a hold of you and be as creative and open minded as possible. Like, that's what I would suggest anybody who comes into this space do.
Yeah, that was pretty much something like what I said. But yeah, with that much said, anything else? With the last 6 minutes that we've got, use two of them to tell people once again who you are and where to find you.
Okay. Well, my name is Sammy Flores, also known as Samtoshi F Baby. I on Twitter, I'm at Samtoshi underscore F underscore baby. On Instagram, it's the same. On Facebook, I'm just Sammy Flores. On Telegram, I'm Samtoshi F Baby together. And yeah, that's where you can find me. I don't know if I have any other socials. I think I am on LinkedIn, but I don't really use that. I don't really use Instagram that much either. And Facebook, I'm there because all my family's on there. But on Twitter is where I'm usually hanging out, and Telegram, you could definitely reach me there. I get a lot of messages. So if I do take a little bit to respond, don't feel like I'm not going to respond. But, I will get to you eventually and, respond with, whatever question you have, whatever answer I could give or whatever advice, you know, we're all just here to help each other out and try to, push the needle forward in this space. So yeah, that's where you could kind of reach me at.
Well, yeah, excellent for the inaugural interview. I'll catch up. I'll catch you, whoever it is that's watching, on the flip. I'll catch you in the verse because we actually work together. Believe it or not, I learned a lot about you that I didn't know. But yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me and him and us. And yeah, have
It
a
was
good
a
one
pleasure.
wherever you are.